Okay, people, I'm here. I'm back with some fantasy booking. I was dying to do some fantasy booking for ages, but I've been looking for the right subject to do. I didn't want to do anything too long. I didn't want to do a full-blown series because just haven't felt like it. But I do want to give a shout out to a few series by this one guy, Mickey Babylon. He did all the WrestleManias, and he started but sort of stopped doing the Starcades. Like, he did every single WrestleMania, and he went and looked up rosters for the time periods that people are around. And I know how hard that can be sometimes, because you can lock down a year on this one website I was looking up, and my God, they get clogged up with people who are especially in later years when people are under developmental contracts. So you and people who maybe have wrestled one night. So it's kind of hard to figure out stuff like that. So looking him up, Mickey Babylon. He's in the current thing he is doing though is doing a full-blown series on WCW 2000. Now, I told him to look up mine. I can't remember whether he said I don't think he could find it for some reason. So, guys, just when you're looking through my stuff, make sure you look through all the playlists. I like to put everything that I do in a certain playlist. Yeah, like back in the day, I did a whole playlist on all my wrestling stuff, which was a bad idea. But it's now when I get a series together, I put it all together in one location, and I create the playlist and I load everything up directly. But that might mean I have to juggle some stuff around afterwards because of the way YouTube works. Yeah, but yeah, I thought I'd come back to WCW in '99. Vince Russo came in at about the 11th of October. I believe was the time he came in. You can really lock down the date when Russo came in in 2000, when he came back with Eric Bischoff, because they took a week off and then they went ahead. So yeah, I can't. So we're gonna go from the 11th of October, and the big story coming in to this would be the powers that be angle. The powers that be have shown up. I kind of like the idea of Vince being off camera and him being the only one talking. But I decided to put that thing, like, instead of having Vince talking, you don't see him on camera. You don't you don't hear from them at all. You just, there's a door with the powers that be logo on it, and through like their name, powers that be. Like, so, I prefer to have it be something else, but yeah. So they announced this on this episode of Nitro, that they are here. They've come to oversee the new company that they're in charge of, whatever. So they're going to be watching the show, and they're going to be interviewing top talent as well. So you don't see the interviews, you just see them coming out of the locker room. You see like a Sting, Lex, Hulk Hogan would be one, and Brett would definitely be there, and he'd be one of the ones going, yeah, I'm glad that they're here. They seem to know what they're doing. We just watched the match, the last match together, whatever it would be. I would probably do that, be the one of the top matches here. But here we go. The matches for that night though would be, now if you look up the results, they only show the matches. The place I looked it up, which was like a wiki thing, and they didn't run down everything that was happening, which was frustrating later on, because there was that tournament and they listed all the times on the matches, and some of them were, I think there was a lot of short matches there, so you could definitely tell. With me, no match would go less than 5 minutes, depending on who was involved. Because, like, I understand with certain talent you want to do that, you want to keep the matches short, but certain matches you want to let breathe. I know it's frustrating when there's a commercial break, but like some of these you wouldn't do that. Yeah. So opening up, Brad Armstrong versus Vampiro. Now Brad hadn't really been around. I can't remember seeing him on pay-per-view or anything. Really, the only reason I know he was there is because I looked at the Halloween Havoc. He was there, and I'm like, I didn't even know what his gimmick was. So, or I didn't even know what the deal with him was. But apparently he was really big in Smoky Mountain. Here in WCW, he did nothing, really. So at this time at least. So, but Vampiro was really getting hot, and I would want to push Vampiro, so Vampiro goes over in the opening match. Ming versus Horace Hogan. Horace was doing nothing, and he never really. I mean, if you've got the name Hogan attached to your name, and your first name isn't Hulk, you're not really going to do much. But Ming would go over Horace here, because I really want to push Ming as the killer Samoan that he was, and Ming would just Tonga death grip him and be out. Now the Cruiserweight title. Now at this time, the Cruiserweight champion was Disco. And I never got that. Disco Inferno as a Cruiserweight champion. So I'm going to rip the belt off him and give it to Berlin, his buddy Alex Wright. Now, unfortunately, the match that killed Berlin had already happened. It really killed that gimmick. And the match or whatever didn't work out. Because he was supposed to take on someone else, and they didn't show up. They had the travel problems or whatever, injury. Berlin would go over with the help of his outside enforcer, The Wall, who's awesome in my opinion, who went on to become really good as Malice, and unfortunately passed away at the end of 2003, beginning of 2004. So sorry about that. But so Berlin would go over. So the other thing about this night you'll notice also is that a lot of championships would be on the line, because I think when you have that new group coming, you don't want everything to change, but you want certain things to change. And I didn't really like Disco as the Cruiserweight champion, but later on I would do some other stuff with him, and anything to keep him away from the book. But yeah, so that happens. Tag team title match: Harlem Heat versus the Revolution for the for the belts. Harlem Heat go over. They, for whatever reason, they ended up having a short reign. But no, I want to keep the belts on the Heat. And an interview after this match would reveal that Booker is looking to strike out as a single star, and he says, "When we lose these belts, that's it for Harlem Heat." And Stevie Ray kind of looks at him and he's like, "What? What do you mean? What do you mean, bro? What are you talking about? We're going great here. We're one of the greatest tag teams of all time." And yeah, I would really push that too. They're one of the best tag teams of all time. So yeah, Chris Benoit versus Van Hammer. Chris Benoit would win clean by submission and win. Goldberg versus Rick Steiner, number one contendership for the US title. Now I'm not sure if the Goldberg Sid match had been booked yet, but this would sort of make it official. So yeah, Goldberg would go over here and yeah, win. And also we got the number one contendership for the tag team titles at Halloween Havoc. So we've got the Harlem Heat, the champions. They're gonna obviously not going to be the Revolution, but we got the First Family, Brian Knobbs and Hugh Morris versus the Filthy Animals and Kidman and Mysterio. Now, I just check here. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, what happens here is, I think it's the following week or whatever, Ray got injured. So I'm kind of doing this here. But the reason I'm doing this as well is because I'd want to have Kidman and Ray go over. Because and I want them to pin Brian Knobbs because I don't really want to be doing much with the First Family going forward here. Then we have what I think would be a great match: Ric Flair versus Curt Hennig. He was still from what I've read, he was still with like Vincent, his manager or bodyguard or whatever. It was Curly Bill. I just changed it back to Vincent because I think that's better name than Curly Bill. Ric Flair wins the match, and you see, Kurt is sort of like lying. He's like, "What the hell? What's happening here?" And then we have the U.S. title match: Psycho Sid versus Conan. Sid's going over here. I think Sid is big. He's intimidating. He's just intense, and I want to keep that intensity there. So Sid wins, and I think he was doing the thing where he's bragging about his undefeated streak. So I'd keep that going because, like, to me, that's perfect setup for the rivalry with Goldberg. So Sting and the Total Package are in the main event against Bret Hart and Hulk Hogan. Now, just before this match, probably during the last one, Hulk would have been coming out of the Powers That Be's office, and out there would be Gene Okerlund. He'd be interviewing the guys as they come out. Earlier in the night, Bret would have come out and said, "Hey, I like these guys. They've got the thing." And Hulk's sort of like, "Brother, I was in the gym. I was pumping iron, and I heard about these new Powers That Be, and I went and saw them, and I don't like them, brother. I don't like them. I don't think they got the Hulkster's best interest at heart." And yeah, you would see that Sting and the Total Package would go over here, but only because guess what? Hulk gets injured, and he's in the match, and he's holding his knee because earlier in the year he had knee issues. I can't remember if that was at work or that he did legitimately hurt his knee. So he'd be like, "Ooh, brother." So yeah, and it's announced on the following Thunder that, hey, this is going out down. Now, I'm not booking the Thunders because, yeah, I'm kind of handicapped there with who I could have booked and who I can't. So yeah. But moving forward to the following Nitro. Cruiserweight #1 contenders match. Evan Courageous versus Juventud Guerrera. Hoovy goes over. Then we have Hugh Morris, Brian Knobbs, and the Barbarian go up against Harlem Heat. And Ming wins here. He does the Tongan Death Grip. He gets the guy. Wins. Cruiserweight title. Berlin versus La Parka. I like La Parka. I think he's got a great look and everything with the mask and everything. It's really interesting because unlike the real Russo, I kind of like the luchadors. I think they add something to it. And plus, merch sales, guys. Merch sales with masks. Like, even if you only seen a few of them, that's still money in the pocket. So, and while I wouldn't be pushing La Parka to the moon, I kind of like La Parka, and I want to do something there. And even I'd even have after the match, he hits Berlin in the back with a steel chair, and then ends up getting choke slammed by the wall. Conan versus Disco Inferno. Sorry, Disco, you're going down. Conan's going over you. He's better. Chris Benoit versus Eddie Guerrero. Chris wins, but this would be one hell of a match. This would be a clinic. This would be work. And this is for the TV title. I'm going to try and install in everyone that the TV title is workers, because it is announced during this show, during Benoit's entrance, that the TV title now has to be defended every week, at least once. It can be wouldn't go into the specifics, but it has to be Nitro, Thunder, or Saturday night. It has to be defended on TV every week, because it is the TV title. So the Filthy Animals go up against, which is Rey Mysterio and Billy Kidman, have to take on the Revolution. I'd have the Revolution win this one, the Perry Saturn win, and I think this is also the match. Well, because it was at this time that Rey got hurt, and I think they had stripped the belts as well, and that's why they had that triple threat. But in this, the reason they're going to have a triple threat is because Rey gets hurt here. So the original number one's contendership match has to take place, and as well, so both teams go in, and it's Conan who's replacing Rey. So yeah, Chavo Guerrero Jr. versus David Flair. While I think David Flair as a character worked, his wrestling was really lacking. But anyway, going forward, I'd want to do some stuff with him, but I'd want him to have a role on the show. And I think David Flair had WCW had developmental territory. I would have sent him down there, but I don't. So I've got to use him, and I'm going to use him in this way. He's going to end up going to a certain point, but yeah, have some stuff happen to him. So after the match, David Flair's celebrating. He's like, "Yeah, I won a match and everything," and out comes Jeff Jarrett, guitar over the head. He falls to the ground. Jeff Jarrett comes in, cuts the promo he originally cut. Says he's the chosen one of the powers that be. He's got all the stroke here and everything, which he kind of did. Like Vince Russo really wanted to push Jeff Jarrett, and I think especially Jeff, he had reached the pinnacle of how far he could get in WWE, and he thought he was a main eventer. And while I think eventually he did get there in 2000, I actually started to believe him as a main eventer. I never saw him as the guy. In TNA, he kind of was default the guy, because like there was no one else that was in the company ever really that sort of met that level, and that was manipulated on purpose. So Jeff cuts a promo. He's like, "Yeah, I'm the man, and I am the chosen one." Blah 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 blah. Buff Bagwell versus Rick Steiner. Buff goes over just because I think by this time Rick was slowing down. Wasn't the guy that he was before. And it was really time to give Buff a little push, not a huge one. Buff Bagwell. Mona versus Medusa. I don't know who else was on the roster at this point with women's roles, but like Mona and Medusa, I think they were booked in an evening gown match here, but I'd prefer to put them in a just straight up wrestling match and see what happened. I would put Medusa over every day of the week there in this position. Sorry, just checking the time. I'll just get through this. Vampiro versus Horace Hogan. Vampiro goes over. Goldberg and Bret Hart team up to take on Sting and Lex here. And Goldberg wins, he goes over. Alright, guys, I don't want this to go much longer, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut here, and then I'm going to go into Halloween Havoc, and I'm going to tell you what happens there, and probably the show after, and then we'll have another break, and then after that it should be set up for the series going forward. Okay.